I've recently gotten into Monster Hunter Rise. I know, I'm late. But I've been really enjoying it. Monster Hunter Rise, which I will be referring to as Rise from this point onward, is technically my first proper Monster Hunter game. I've tried many times before to get into Monster Hunter with the PSP titles and Monster Hunter Ultimate Generation, but I could never get past the outdated control scheme. Believe me, I thought I would be able to overcome this like I did with Resident Evil 4. Monster Hunter Rise, while seemingly very similar to its predecessors, especially with the text-based tutorials and ungodly amount of exposition, felt a lot better to control and play. You can now scale walls, ride your palm mute, and use wire bugs to traverse each areas with great haste, giving hunters a much better experience with exploration. And along with these features came noticeably more aggressive and agile monsters that will give your Palamute buddy a chase of its lifetime. Compared to older Monster Hunter games, Rise combat feels like the developers took the clunky, heavy, and otherwise annoyingly slow combat system of the old games and gave it a restoration treatment by cleaning off the rust and giving it a new, sleek, shiny look. It's the same bread cutter, just cleaner and easier to use. Each weapons are intuitive and satisfying to use while retaining the slow, methodical playstyle of prior games. Positioning yourself in the wrong place during a combat scenario could still launch your character 6 feet into the air just like before. Overall, Monster Hunter Rise is a great improvement over what came before. But despite me and my friends' very positive impression of Monster Hunter Rise, the general reception of the game online says otherwise. Upon its release, Rise was heavily criticized for its graphical downgrade and world design when compared to its latest mainline predecessor, Monster Hunter World. Being built for the Switch, which even at the time of its launch was a very outdated console in terms of overall performance, Rise unfortunately had to cut corners in many areas of the game, especially the graphics and the map. What used to be giant forests and deserts in World turns into small areas in Rise in order to keep the game's performance steady on the Switch NVIDIA Tegra processor. The game also took a more stylized approach to its graphics and character designs. Well, personally, I think Rise on its own is a solid game, but compared to World, it's quite clear how trimmed down the game really is for the sake of performance. Fans have also argued that Rise felt a little bit too easy to play with how much easier and shorter it is to hunt each monster compared to the long preparation and tracking of Monster Hunter World, a feature that is non-existent in Rise and was substituted with the minimap which shows your targeted monster on the map, making the search far less time-consuming and otherwise very convenient. While I do love the fast-paced hunts, I can see how it seems easy to people who have came from Monster Hunter World and expected a bit more challenge. While it's easy to chalk it up to Rise being a Switch-exclusive game ported to PC, it's also very important to recognize that the game is not without flaws. In its own bubble, separated from the comparison to World, Rise still has many issues regarding gameplay. While exploring the areas during hunts, you can definitely see where corners were cut that could have made the game much more enjoyable. There are big cavern entrances that could have led to the monster's nest or a cool boss arena, but they're blocked by invisible walls or barricaded with debris despite being big enough for you to go in. Another point being brought up about Rise is how the bigger map somehow lacks the same grand feeling as in prior games where the world felt much bigger despite being technically smaller. The desert, for example, while more vertical and has more areas to explore, felt like a downgrade compared to Monster Hunter Freedom Unite or Ultimate Generation. But despite these shortcomings, I still think Monster Hunter Rise is a great game. While many complain about its apparently lack of difficulty due to how fast each hunt is compared to World, I feel that Monster Hunter Rise wasn't meant to be played like Monster Hunter World. Being built for handheld experiences first and foremost, Rise has adapted its playstyle to a more fast-paced approach compared to prior entries of the franchise. Each hunts wrap up shortly not because the game was supposed to be easier, but it's supposed to be convenient for the game's targeted audience. It's the same reason why you can scale walls, ride your Palamute, and zip across the map with your wirebug. Monster Hunter Rise was made with handheld user in mind. People who would pull out their Nintendo Switch on the bus or on the train and play for a couple of minutes before going on with the rest of their days. It is a game that was meant to be played in short bursts of time. While on a technicality it is inferior to Monster Hunter World, on its own and with the mindset of the game doing whatever it needed to do, Monster Hunter Rise is still a solid game. Whether we like it or not, comparison is still one of the most useful tools when it comes to discussion involving medias, and especially with video games due to how expansive the genres are and how fast you can get lost between the subgenres and niches. It's hard to evaluate a game based on its own merit because video games are multifaceted forms of media. Without comparison, it's almost impossible to try and convey how you felt playing a title. But by doing so, we create a situation where games are almost expected to remain static in terms of gameplay with each new titles in order to maintain the status quo. Games are almost expected to only improve upon the visual fidelity and nothing else. I've seen this discourse surrounding Silent Hill F where old fans are heavily criticizing it for the new combat system and its inclusion of the parrying mechanics. Some even go as far as comparing it to Dark Souls. But on the other hand, the general audience and reviews are pretty positive. It even became the best-selling Silent Hill title on opening week, beating Silent Hill 2 Remake that came out a year prior. It is within our own primal instinct to prefer and stick with what's familiar, whether or not it be food, music, or video games. But by doing so, we strip ourselves of the chance to experience something new, to experience something different. Resident Evil 4 of all games were heavily criticized for changing up the genre of the Resident Evil series to a more action horror-oriented gameplay instead of a true survival horror. Although as time went by, it is now considered as one of the most important pillars of modern video game mechanics and a masterclass in balancing horror and action. It goes to show that with time, we will learn to appreciate things that are considered bad, like Monster Hunter Rise, which is now slowly earning the hearts of newcomers and old fans alike. Monster Hunter Rise is by no means a perfect game, but it's also not sacrilegious to the Monster Hunter franchise. Sure, it has its ups and downs, but by itself, Monster Hunter Rise is still an incredible experience. Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise were made for different audiences in mind. It's hard to evaluate a game once you have a preconceived notion of what the game should be like based on its prior predecessors. We can't expect them to appeal to everyone, and we should judge them based on their own merit. I hope this video was entertaining and gave you some form of value by the end of it. Thank you so much for watching and making it all the way to the end. I will also encourage discussion down in the comment section below as I do want to hear your thoughts about Monster Hunter Rise and the video as a whole. If you enjoyed the video, please consider a like as it would greatly help out the channel, and if you want to see more of this content, you can consider subscribing. Thank you for watching. Until next time.